Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Shalesa Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Tagore Pamanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, titled Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 12. Neishkarmyam api achutabhava varjitam. Neishkaryam api achutabhava varjitam. Naso bhate jnanamalam niranjanam. Naso bhate jnanamalam niranjanam. Kuta puna sasvad abhadram ishvare. Kuta puna sasvad abhadram ishvare. Nacharpitam karma yadapi akaranam. Nacharpitam karma yadapi akaranam. Neshkaryamapi achutabhava varjitam. Naso bhate jnanamalam niranjanam. Kuta puna sasvada bhadram ishvare. Nacharpitam karma yadapi akaranam. Neshkaryamapi achutabhava varjitam. Naso bhate jnanamalam niranjanam. Kuta puna sasvada bhadram ishvare. Nacharpitam karma yadapi akaranam. Word for word translation, Neshkaryam, self-realization, being freed from the reactions of fruitive work. Api, in spite of. Achyuta, the infallible Lord. Bhava, conception. Varjitam, devoid of. Na, does not. Sobhate, look well. Jnanam, transcendental knowledge. Alam, by and by. Niranjanam, free from designations. Kutaha, various. Puna, again. Sasvat, always. Abhadram, uncongenial. Ishvare, unto the Lord. Na, not. Cha, and. Arpitam, offered. Karma, fruitive work. Yat api, what is. Akaranam, not fruitive. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Purport. As referred to above, not only ordinary literatures devoid of the transcendental glorification of the Lord are condemned, but also Vedic literatures and speculation on the subject of impersonal Brahman, when they are devoid of devotional service. When speculation on the impersonal Brahman is condemned on the above ground, then what to speak of ordinary fruitive work, which is not meant to fulfill the aim of devotional service? Such speculative knowledge and fruitive work cannot lead one to the goal of perfection. Fruitive work, in which almost all people in general engage, is always painful, either in the beginning or at the end. It can be fruitful only when made subservient to the devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. The bona fide enjoyer of the fruitive work is the personality of Godhead, and thus, when it is engaged for the sense gratification of living beings, it becomes an acute source of trouble. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjanasnalakaya Chaksurmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghanatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Anam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, we're just starting, we're at the beginning of chapter 5 of first canto, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam. So, brief recap, previous chapter we saw how Srila Vyasadeva, once upon a time he was meditating, on the bank of River Saraswati, and he could see into the future. He could see how in the future age of Kali Yuga, how people, they'll be so misfortunate, they'll be engaged in so many sinful activities, and they'll become so degraded, so much immersed in ignorance and passion. So feeling compassion upon them, Vyasadeva, he then starts writing different literatures for their deliverance. So first thing he does is he breaks up the one Veda into 4 to make the Veda easier to understand for the common man. Then he starts writing, the 108 Upanishads, different Puranas, and then the Itihasas, Ramayana, Mahabharata. So the last thing he writes is the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata he specifically writes for those of less intelligence, who can easily understand the Vedic knowledge through the form of stories. Whereas the Upanishads and the Vedas, it's in very technical language, so it's hard to understand. But even after writing all these different Vedic literatures, he has composed hundreds and thousands of verses. Still, he's not feeling satisfied. And then, while he's feeling this dissatisfaction, he's contemplating, what he's doing wrong. And then from within his heart, the super soul gives him that realization. And then if you look in the last few verses of the previous chapter, Vyasadeva realizes himself that, okay, maybe it's because I haven't written specifically glorifying the Supreme Lord. And then just at that moment, when Vyasadeva is contemplating on this, that maybe it's because I didn't fully glorify the Supreme Lord, just at the right instant, Narad Muni comes. And then Narad Muni, he comes, Vyasadeva offers him a seat, offers his respectful obeisances, and Vyasadeva puts forward his inquiry before Narad Muni. He explains to Narad Muni, this is my situation, I'm feeling happy and satisfied, please help me, what should I do? And Narad Muni, he's initially smiling, because he knows the cause of Vyasadeva's despondency. And now in this chapter we're seeing how now finally Narad Muni, who will start explaining. So, but Vyasadeva in the previous chapter, he's already realized this from the super soul within. But now from his, like we hear in the Shastras, how there's the Guru inside, the Chaitya Guru, the super soul, and then the Guru outside as well. And both the Gurus, they give the same knowledge. So in the previous chapter, we saw how the super soul himself gave a clue to Vyasadeva. But then in this chapter, his Diksha Guru or his Shiksha Guru is now confirming what Krishna himself has told him. So first thing Narad Muni does is he indirectly says, that in the second verse, are you happy, satisfied by identifying yourself with the body and the mind? So in this verse, Narad Muni, he gives a clue as to the root cause of all dissatisfaction. And Prabhupada in his purports, he explains that the root cause of all dissatisfaction, despondency, it all starts at the initial stage when we identify ourselves with the body. When we identify ourselves with the body and the mind, that's when all unhappiness, despondency starts. Because that's not our original nature. So if we try to be something that we're not, then naturally we'll never be happy. No matter how hard we try, we'll just never fit in, we'll never be happy. The example is given like the egg of an eagle or something, it hatches amongst chickens, and then the baby eagle is raised among the chickens. And because it's just following all the chickens around, it's trying to be like a chicken. It's trying to just pick on the ground and eat worms. But because it's not a chicken, it's never going to be happy. No matter how hard the eagle tries, it's never going to be happy. Only when it realizes that it's not a chicken, it's an eagle, and only when it starts flying in the sky, like all the other eagles, will be happy. So in the same way, Narad Muni, he gives a clue by saying that the root cause of all our dissatisfaction happens when we start identifying ourselves with this body, that we're this body, we're this mind. Then all miseries happen. Then Narad Muni says that, kind of like sarcastically, he says, that you're so learned, you're such a great scholar, you've written so many hundreds and thousands of verses, you know the import of all the Vedic literatures, so why should you be despondent, How come you're dissatisfied? Like that, Narad Muni says to Vyasadeva. And in the purports, Prabhupada explains that from this we can learn that one can be like so knowledgeable as Vyasadeva. One can have so much knowledge, so much shastric knowledge, have so much scholarship, but despite having all of these things, one can still be dissatisfied. One can still be not feeling happy. One can still be morose in life. So Prabhupada explains this is not the way to actually be satisfied and blissful. To be satisfied and blissful, we need to be fully engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. And that's what we see from Vyasadeva. He's such a great learned scholar. He has so much knowledge, more knowledge than anyone can, even think of. But despite having all this knowledge, he was still not feeling happy. And then finally, after Narad Muni is teasing Vyasadeva like this, then Vyasadeva he starts speaking, and then Vyasadeva he surrenders into Narad Muni, and very humbly he takes a humble position and asks and inquires from Narad Muni. From this again we see, how we can obviously learn this principle, how a disciple is always like humble before his spiritual master. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he showed us by example how the disciple, he should always consider himself a fool before his guru. He should always think that he doesn't know anything about Krishna, that whatever the guru says is right. So in the same way, Vyasadeva now he is submitting onto Narad Muni. And I was also reading in 3rd canto, I was hearing how Devahuti, even though she's the mother of Lord Kapila Dev, still in the same way Devahuti is surrendering onto Kapila Dev and accepting Lord Kapila as his guru. Mother Devahuti, she is saying, that I'm tired of my senses, I'm tired of being, dragged here and there by my senses and my mind. I'm tired of serving them, now I want to just surrender unto you. Please help me get out of this, dark well of material existence. So Prabhupada explains it's very important quality for every disciple is that if he wants to advance in spiritual life, he needs to have that distaste for material life. Unless one has that distaste for material life, then naturally he won't come to the other side and take shelter of spiritual life. So Mother Devotee, she had that distaste. And then with that distaste and with that frustration of serving the material energy, so in devotional service we can also have frustration, anger, but we should use that frustration, anger on our senses, on our mind. We should have that, I'm tired of being a slave of my mind, I'm tired of being a slave of my senses, Now is the time to become like a Goswami instead of a Godas. So Mother Devotee, she had that, that strong desire, strong urge. And then next verse, she explains that you are the transcendental eye of my body. Without you, I cannot see anything. So in the purport, Prabhupada, he gives very nice purport explaining about the guru-disciple relationship. Prabhupada says that actually the disciple, whatever he sees in the world, it should be through the eyes of the guru. It should be through the eyes of whatever his guru is taught. So like we always hear of this, Shastra Chaksus, how we should always hear through, see through the eyes of the Shastras. Because if we just looking through our mundane eyes, we can see something, but we don't know what it is. Like unless I've been told that, this is like a TV, or, this is like a microphone. If an ordinary kid just looks at it, he doesn't know what it is. If an ordinary kid just looks at a plane flying in the sky, he just thinks it's a big bird. He doesn't know it's like a man-made machine. So only if the child has heard from the science textbooks or went to school and learned, okay, this is an airplane, they fly like this, it has a jet engine, it works like that. Then when he sees the airplane, he doesn't see it as a bird, but he sees it as a machine. So in the same way, Gokulesh Prabhu was explaining, we don't see through our eyes, we see through our ears. So just as we have Shastra Chaksus, how we should see through the eyes of the Shastra, in this same way Prabhupada is explaining, we should see through the eyes of Guru Maharaj. We should see through the eyes of whatever our Guru Maharaj just taught us. So that's why Devahuti was saying that you are my transcendental eye. The Guru is like our transcendental eye. So we don't see through our material eyes, we see through the teachings of Guru Maharaj. So like this, I was reading 3rd canto of Mother Devotee, the same way she was surrendering onto Lord Kapila Dev. And obviously we see the classic example of Arjuna surrendering onto Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is saying, that I am overcome by miserly weakness, karpanya dosa. Now I submit unto you as your disciple, you please instruct me what to do. So after Vyasadeva finally submits, then now Narad Muni, he will start talking. And first thing Narad Muni says is that you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personal Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. Then next he says, although great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with religious performances. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. So, firstly, Narmani explains that you haven't fully glorified the Supreme Lord properly. And secondly, he explains, although you've written all these scriptures, main theme of all these scriptures, you just mentioned Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. But you haven't mentioned about the fifth, the prema part, or about developing love of Godhead. So, no doubt Vyasadeva had mentioned in his different books about the glories of the Lord, but that wasn't the main theme. That was like a side theme, and along with that, there was Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So, because of that, he was feeling despondent. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that because he had more or less improperly used his valuable time, thus he was despondent. From this, again, we can learn. Okay, so first thing we were hearing how when we identify ourselves with our mind and body, we feel, that's the root cause of all despondency. And secondly, we're hearing how when we don't fully do our devotional service properly, when there's some, we do devotional, but we're not feeling happy and satisfied, it means that we've done something wrong. Either, with another devotee, or either we didn't put a full effort, something like that. So, and here again, Prabhupada is saying, when he was feeling more or less, he had more or less improperly used his valuable time, and thus was despondent. So another cause for despondency is when we mismanage our time. When we know that we could have done something better, or when we know that, I had so much time, but I spaced out and I, just wasted his time doing something which I should not have been doing. And when we look back, if only I could go back in time and redo this, I could have better managed my time, then naturally that dissatisfaction comes. So same thing Vyasadeva was feeling. He was thinking, oh man, I had so much time, and all this time I was just writing all these other books, and all of them are just to do with this Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which is not going to lead, to Goloka Vrindavan. So what was the point of all this? So from this we need to learn is that, I forgot the Sanskrit Prabhupada. He quotes this in Bhagavad, one of his purports, where it's this verse is mentioning how a devotee, a pure devotee Lord, he tries to utilize every moment, every second in the Lord's service. He doesn't let a single moment pass without being fully engaged in devotional service of Lord. So unless we're constantly engaging in devotional service, then naturally dissatisfaction will come. Naturally we feel dissatisfied. Today I had a whole day free, but I just wasted it by, oversleeping or just spacing out here, doing nothing. Then naturally we'll feel dissatisfied. But if we constantly have this urgency to keep on pushing ourselves to do more service, to do more sadhana, then we'll always be happy and blissful. But when that moment comes, when we phase out and we waste our time, which is not our time, it's Krishna's time, because this body is actually given to us by Krishna, so if we don't properly use it in his service, naturally that dissatisfaction will come. Okay, and then text 10 and 11, that's what we saw over the weekend. The two very famous verses. First verse, Narad Muni, he puts down, mundane literatures by saying they are just as good as a place of pilgrimage for crows. So just as crows, you always see them assembled at places of garbage and filth. They come and, eat all this garbage, nonsense, leftovers by other people. Same way, only persons of that caliber, of that, intelligence, lowly persons, materialists, only they take shelter of such mundane literatures. And then text 11, which was yesterday's verse, then Narad Muni then says, okay, on the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. And in today's verse, Narad Muni, he takes it a step further. So first he says mundane literatures is all nonsense. It's just like a, Vyasam Tirtha, that it's just like a place of pilgrimage for crows. And it's all nonsense. But in today's verse, Narad Muni is saying that even though literature might be spiritual, and it might be talking about like moksha, about getting liberated, it might be talking about impersonal Brahman, even that literature is useless if it doesn't include anything to do with devotional service. So now Narad Muni is taking it a bit further. Initially he was saying mundane literatures, which is just to do, Prabhupada is saying like mainly about sex life or mundane novels, nonsense literature about mundane topics in the mature world. But Narad Muni now is saying even those, Vedic literatures that just talk about impersonal Brahman or impersonal realization, if they don't have anything to do with devotional service, then even that is condemned. That's also useless. So if even that is useless, then Narad Muni say, what then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? So Narad Muni is explaining how fruitive work is like suffering both in the beginning and the end. So, like we hear in the Gita, that happiness in the, pleasure in the mode of ignorance is both poison at the beginning and poison at the end. So that's the nature of mature happiness. Actually, there's no happiness. It's mentioned in the Shastras that it's just like an illusion. We think we're actually happy, but actually it's just like an illusion. The example is given that actual mature happiness, it's actually just the temporary cessation of mature distress is considered as happiness in this mature. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gives the example. Like back in the old days, to torture the prisoners, they would just grab them by the hair and then forcibly push their head underwater. And then the prisoner would be like struggling, he can't breathe, he's underwater. And then he'll be like struggling like a fish. And then finally just, after, just when he, before he falls unconscious or something, they take his head out of the water. And that momentary, just for those few seconds when his head is out of the water, he feels so happy. And he takes a deep breath and he's feeling so much satisfaction. Oh, finally I can breathe in deeper. But then just when that breath he takes in, again they push him down. So him feeling happy because he's out of the water, that's not actual happiness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that's just the temporary cessation of suffering. That's what's considered as happiness actually. So that's actually that's actually what mature happiness is all about. And it's very temporary, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, that such pleasures have a beginning and end, and the learned man, he doesn't delight in them. I was also just reading in 3rd canto, Lord Kapila Dev's instructions about, fruitive life of a ordinary man or a materialist or a karmi. So Kapila Dev, he gives like the whole description of how a karmi or a materialist, how he completely wastes his life. So he first starts off by explaining that the karmi, to maintain his family and his friends, he has to work very hard day and night. But by honest means, he can't support his family. So then he has to take to illegal methods to get more money to support his family. So by hook or crook, he has to acquire more and more money to maintain his family. And while he's engaged in all this work, the only result of all of his hard work is that his sinful activities are just increasing more and more. So the result of all of his hard work is that his bad karma is just increasing more and more, day by day. With every action he makes, every minute, every hour of the day, his bad karma is just increasing more and more. That's the only result. And Prabhupada explains in his purport, he doesn't even enjoy. He works so hard to get, so much money, but actually his family enjoy more than him. He's the one going out, working so hard. He comes back home, and Prabhupada explains sometimes it so happens that he comes back so late that the wife and the children, they would have eaten everything will be finished, they'll be fast asleep, and all he'll get is just the remnants of the food. Even though he's the one working so hard, the family end up enjoying more of his wealth. And then at the end of life, when he dies, what will happen to all the bank balance? He's not going to take it back to the next life. It's just all gone. He might have accumulated $1 million, $2 million, whatever. He's not going to take even a single cent. So what does he actually carry with him to the next body? What he carries is all of the sinful karma that is accumulated. So you just think about it. In this life, when he's working so hard, he's not even enjoying. He's just working like a donkey. And his family ends up enjoying more. And to support his family, he does, Kapila Dev explains how he gets involved in sinful activities, illegal ways, to get more and more money to support the family, because he can't do it by honest means. And one would think that because he's using illegal ways to get more money, that the family will also share some of the reactions. But actually, Prabhupada explains, actually, because he's the leader, actually, he's the one who's doing the sinful activity, he takes most of the sinful karma. The family, they just get a little bit. They just get a little bit of sinful karma for enjoying the wealth of the man. But actually, he's the one who suffers more. So even though he's working so hard, he's not even enjoying this life. And the next life, he's the one who has to suffer more than all the other members. So if you think about it that perspective, Bhagavatam explains how he's just a complete fool. He's wasting this whole life, plus he's ruining his whole next life. Because in this life, with every action he performs, his bad karma is just increasing more and more and more and more. And in next life, he has to suffer for all of those terrible reactions, actually. And Bhagavatam explains that, okay, during his youth, he works so hard, and in old age, he becomes an invalid, he can't work. And one would think that the materialist family, they would now, take nice care of him. Okay, this guy has worked so hard for us, they'll take good care of him. But no, in the Kami family, everyone's whole focus is just sense gratification. Like we see with Kamsa, Prabhupada explains in that chapter of 10 Canto that one should never trust a materialist. For his own sense gratification, a materialist can do anything. One should never trust a karmi. So even though this man has worked so hard for his family, when he becomes old, the family, they just see him as a useless fellow. And they just see him as a burden on the family. And the guy, he realizes this, he can sense this, but still he stays attached. Because he's so attached to his family and friends, he doesn't want to get out. And Kapila Dev says that he lives just like a dog in the house of his other family members. Even though, just like you have a dog, you don't care so much for the dog, you just give it some remnants food, okay, here, take this. Like that, the family members treat him in his old age. But still, he doesn't want to leave. And then finally, death comes for the karmi or the materialist. And in death, obviously, we hear, how painful death is. Somewhere in the Shastra is mentioned that, like the pain that one gets by being stung by like 1,000 scorpions or something, that's the same pain one goes through at the time of death. So completely, like inconceivable how painful it will be. And then when death finally comes, then Kapila Deva explains how the Yamadutas, they come, and they come with ropes. They grab the soul and take the soul out of the body with strong ropes. And then from that body to Yamaloka, there's a great distance. And the distance is mentioned to be like 792,000 miles, which is, again, like inconceivable for us, such a long distance, 792,000 miles. And along the distance, he has to walk on this road, which is 792,000 miles. And the road is filled with hot sand. He has to walk on the hot sand. And all the while, there's dogs coming from all sides of him and biting him and barking at him. And all the while he's being tortured by these dogs, he can remember all of his sinful activities that he did. And then, he's probably getting that realization, man, why did I do all this, Whole life I just wasted working hard. The end result was what? I didn't enjoy in this life. And the end result, now I'm suffering through all this hell. So that's what Prabhupada is saying, What is the use of all this fruitive work? In this life, you don't enjoy from the very beginning and the end. It's painful. Plus, in the next life, you're going to suffer so much. So he's going along the way suffering. And then it's mentioned how along the sides, there's like forest fires coming. And then Prabhupada explains, or Kapila Deva explains, if this soul had engaged in eating the flesh of animals in his life, then he will either be forced to eat his own flesh, or others will come and eat his own flesh. So Prabhupada, he writes in his purports that any man who has a very nice, enjoyable life, eating the flesh of other animals, he will be forced to eat his own flesh along the way to Yamaloka. So from this we can see, we go out there, during lunchtime after work, if you go to a food court, you'll see people all sitting in different tables, eating either a chicken burger or, some beef or pork or something. And when you see that, you can immediately, think of what Bhagavatam is saying. All these persons who are having, seem to having a very enjoyable time eating the flesh of other animals, other living entities. Next life, along the way to Yamaloka, they'll be forced to eat their own flesh. So like this is suffering. And it's mentioned in Bhagavatam that the Yamadutas, they cover the subtle body of that particular jiva with a special body by which it can tolerate all this pain, it can tolerate all this suffering, but it won't die. So ordinarily, if something like this happens, you just die instantly, you know. But because they cover him with that special body, he doesn't die, and he continues to suffer like this. He feels the pain, but he doesn't die. Again and again, he goes through suffering. And then other things happen, like, you know, elephants come and rip open his arms and throw him off a cliff and like that. Then finally he goes to Yamaloka. Yamaraj looks at his sheet, sees all these sinful things he's done just to maintain himself and his family. And then Yamaloka, you know, in Yamaraj, he decides, okay, let's say he's going to get the body of a pig or a hog. But before he gets transferred to the animal body, he has to suffer in one of the hellish planets for a long time. And it's mentioned by Prabhupada that the punishment given in Yamaloka is there to condition one to think, like, for example, if one is supposed to become like a hog, and what is the function of a hog? A hog eats stool and urine. So to condition that jiva to act like that in Yamaloka, they will force that guy to eat stool and urine every day. They will force that guy to act like that, live in a pit full of stool and urine, and they'll forcibly force him to eat stool and urine. So then, after thousands and thousands of years, he'll become conditioned like that. Then after his condition, then they will give him the hog body. So like this, he suffers, okay? Then he comes, gets the hog body. Then again, from there, he has to again go through all the different species of life until finally he gets to human body again. So from this, you know, Kapila Dev shows us the whole outlook of, you know, what's the destination of every single, you know, karmi materialist we see out there on the streets. This whole life they don't enjoy, this whole life they just waste and suffer. And the end result of all the hard work they did is that they have to suffer for so long in the hellish planets. And after suffering for so long, they have to get an animal body. And then from the animal body, they have to progress so many different lives until finally, again, after, you know, so many births, they finally get the human body. So such, you know, crazy consequences there for one who is not Krishna conscious. So realizing this, understanding the pitfall of, you know, materialist life, fruitive work, you know, we can, you know, develop some compassion for the people out there, and, you know, we can develop at least some urgency to go out and help people. In yesterday's Prabhupada is explaining that when there's a fire in a house, naturally everyone just go crazy and go shouting, you know, there's a fire, get out, get out. So in the same way, when we see through the eyes of the Shastra, we actually see, you know, how actually every single jiva out there, they're actually suffering so much through the blazing fires of material existence. Just like if there's a fire, you know, in Falcon Lodge next door, naturally we all go running, try to save those guys, you know, ask them to get out. Same way actually we should see on the streets, actually everyone, you know, what their destination is according to Bhagavatam, according to Lord Kapila Dev. And understanding this with that urgency, we should go out there and try and somehow or other reconnect every soul out there with Krishna, in whatever form is possible. And even if they just take one step towards Krishna, even if they give 10 cents, 5 cents, they eat a little prasad, even if they just hear the holy name once, that benefit will be there with them forever. It will never go away. Okay, I'll stop here. It's 8:45. Yes?
You actually mentioned these hellish planets. Like when the Yamaraj actually takes the jiva away, the subtle body, usually the tendency of the jiva is when the jiva is going through suffering, he will remember the Lord, right? So what if actually, if these jivas, which are being carried away by the Yavadutas, if they happen to remember the Lord at that instant? I mean, while going through, I mean, you mentioned about 792,000 miles. I mean, what if the jiva happens to remember the Lord?
Yeah, so obviously, like we see, you know, with the story of Ajamu, if the jiva is fortunate that somehow or other during his lifetime, he came in contact with some devotees or he heard the holy name, and somehow by chance, if he remembers, then obviously, you know, that will save him from the hellish planets. But most often, these personalities, you know, they're just completely averse to bhakti, devotional service. So if that's the case, then they have to suffer through all the hellish planets. But yes, even if somehow or other, someone has come in contact with a devotee, that will save him. That will guarantee him a human birth in the next life. And that point you're mentioning about 792,000 miles, how it's a long distance, it will take a long time. Actually, Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavatam that the soul, it covers that whole distance in just a few seconds. So because of that particular body the Yamadutas give him, it all happens in an instant actually. So the time scale in different areas of the universe is different. So for him traveling from this body to Yamaloka, even though it's such a great distance, it all happens just in a few moments. But still, during those few moments, he suffers so much actually. That's why Taman Krishna Maharaj, he says, that we should go out there and give at least every single soul out there a chance to come in contact with Krishna. Otherwise, when Yamaraj comes, and all these souls will complain to Yamaraj, but I didn't know about bhakti, I never got a chance to practice bhakti. How do I know this is all bad? How do I know this is wrong? Like this, they'll complain to Yamaraj, and Yamaraj will be in a bewildered situation, what can I say? But if all of these souls out there have been approached by a Sankirtan devotee, then Yamaraj can tell them, you did have a chance, In 2018, on this date, one Sankirtan devotee came and approached you, and he was going to hand you a book, but you said no and you walked away. And then plus, when you were 50 years old, one devotee knocked on your door, and you saw it was Sankirtan devotee, you said no and went away. Then again, when you're 70 years old, one of your friends wanted to give you a book, again you said no and go away. See, all these different instances, Sankirtan devotees, but you said no. So you did have a chance. But unless we go out there and give every single soul an opportunity to come in contact with Krishna, Taman Krishna Maharaj says, then, we're putting Yamaraj, he has a difficult situation, he can't answer the questions. So by going out there on Sankirtan, we're making Yamaraj's life a lot more simple, a lot more easier. Okay, thank you very much. Gantaraj Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai. Yogurishwar Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Pramanandi.